Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pizza Story podcast. I have Jim Mumford here, who is a guest, and he is a cookbook author and a podcast host. So, Jim, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me, Erica. Big fan of the show.
I'm so glad. I'm also a big fan of yours. So, I really want to get into, really everything, but let's start out with, I know that you're a cookbook author, and I want to talk about how, you got into cooking.
I don't know that we have enough time on one podcast, but the short story is, I grew up with food. My grandmother was Sicilian, and not only loved to cook, was an amazing cook. Used to teach cooking, and that trickled down to my mom, then trickled down to me, uh, and really something that I've always loved to do. It really kind of took off about 10 years ago, when the recipes I would make at home I would share with friends and family, and finally someone said you need to make a website, right? So people keep stop emailing. So I made a website, Jim Cooks Food Good, tongue in cheek, right? Totally meant for friends and family. And fast forward 10 years later, I've got a couple cookbooks under my belt, a podcast, freelance, about I think 400 recipes on the website. So yeah, it's been a heck of a journey over the past 10 years.
That's absolutely incredible. Now, do you have a favorite type of food that you like to make?
Boy, pizza, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of why we're here. But I'd say that my favorite type of food is whatever I can serve to the family, right? I'm not a big proponent, just for, honestly, time and resources sake, to make things that aren't really practical in my life. So everything I cook, everything I do, get served 8 seconds after I take that picture. So I think that's my favorite type. Obviously, pizza is very near and dear.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about the evolution here, like maybe like your first cooking experience and when you were like, okay, I love this. This is something that is like, I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah. So that would be college, right? So, I went to Purdue and had a large, friend base, and somehow I always ended up the one cooking. And then I ended up kind of being the one hosting the dinner parties. And it kind of hit me. I have one distinct memory of, senior year, hosting Easter of all things, and everyone was there. I'm like, I love this, right? I love the
Yeah.
cooking. And we just had, we had lasagna and chips, I think. And just, it wasn't anything, wild, but that's one of my first memories. It's more than just I know how to do this. I really like hosting. I really like being the one kind of having the recipes and kind of being the go-to food guy in the group. So that kind of stuck out, and again, it's kind of evolved 20 years from there.
Absolutely. And do you have like a special dinner or something where you're like, this is my most memorable dinner that I served?
Yeah, ever. It would be the pizza party I did for my book PizzaPedia. So, had basically my entire family over. We did a massive photo shoot for the book, and at the end, obviously, we had 30 some pizzas, and everyone I knew, right? Come on over, we're having pizza. And it would turned out to be the biggest pizza party I could ever throw. That's still really memorable, not only because it went into the book, but I got to share those exact pizzas with everyone right after, which it just goes like I said. I don't like cooking for fun. I cook for the friends and family I have.
Yeah, absolutely. So from going from cooking to like, okay, now I'm going to start exploring pizza, what happened?
Boy, so back almost 6 years ago the day, I had to drive from Western Michigan, where I live, to Connecticut. Kind of last minute, flights really didn't work, so I just got in the car and went. As anyone who spent time in Pennsylvania, like I know you have, snow happens, and snow happened, and ice storm happened, and what should have been a 10-hour drive turned into 2.5 days.
Wow.
So I did what any good Sicilian boy would do. I'm hungry. Pizza near me, right? And I ended up going through, Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Youngstown and Scranton and New York and New Jersey, and kind of hit all these cool little places. Thought, boy, every place, I'm only 2 hours down the road, but the pizza is night and day different. And it was really interesting seeing kind of the variations. I thought, okay, someday we'll figure this out, right? Pandemic happened, right? Instead of making sourdough, I started exploring pizza and went down this rabbit hole that you and I love so much. And turns out, I just, the more you dive, the more interesting it got. And 6 years later, there was a book.
Wow, that's so incredible. And so what was like the first pizza that you made?
First pizza I ever made. I didn't realize, again, being Sicilian, I didn't realize pizza could be round. I always thought pizza was square in a sheet pan until I was
Yeah.
like 14, right?
Yeah.
So that's the pizza I learned to make. But for the book, the one that I started with was the tavern style, Chicago
Mm.
pub. I can start wars just by what I just said. I understand, but that's just, I lived in Chicago and around for over a decade. And lived above a pizzeria for a good part of that. Not coincidence, by the way. So that style just kind of that's my favorite. It's every pizza you have, you compare against a couple pizzas along your life, and that's kind of where I started. On the cover of my book is a tavern style for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been loving tavern style lately, even though I just got back from Italy, so I've had, like, all different kinds of pizza there.
Right.
Yeah, but we got back and I was like, "We should get a tavern style pie because we just didn't really see that there."
No, yeah, you don't, right? You see all the different evolutions of Italio and the Neapolitan, but they don't do that cracker. That's kind of the one thing that hasn't really made it back yet. It will, I'm sure it will, because there's no other food to snack on than the tavern style pie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is there a go-to for you where you're like, "Okay, this is my favorite, like, I want a cheese pie, like, toppings," like, what do you go to?
Yeah. Again, being a good Chicago boy, it's sausage and jardinere. I
Mm,
will do that again. Doesn't really matter what, but something about that tavern, it hits. Or if I'm really cooking, especially for the kills, I'll do a mac and cheese pizza. Don't come at me, but I love it. It's easy. Everyone seems to enjoy it, and you can always kind of doctor it up how you want. But a straight, hand tossed mac and cheese. Those are my two. That if I'm trying to impress someone, I'll pull those out, and it works every time.
yeah, absolutely, and then are you like, "Okay, sourdough crust, or no crust," or do you not mind throwing together a quick crust or dough?
I mean, I always have a dough in the fridge right now. I mean, so there's never throwing. Let's face it, I probably have 4 or 5 dough balls just for fun. But
Wow.
I've got recipes for same day Sicilians, and I can do some pretty quick. But I'm generally don't have too many that go 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Just more for practicality sake. But I've always got a couple in the fridge. You never know. Someone comes home, kids bring some friends over. Well, all right, well, I can make pizza happen anytime.
Yeah, and do you have, like, a special kind of oven that you use to cook with?
In my so I'm a freelance writer. In my bio, I say I have one wife, 2 kids, and 4 outdoor pizza ovens. And I wish that were a joke, but no, I've got a dual double decker dual range oven that's going to crank out in the snowy winter here. In the summer, it's outdoors, 10 out of 10. Just because the AC couldn't keep up with the amount of pizzas I generally make every week.
Absolutely. Now, when you were writing your cookbook, like your first book, what was the, idea of like, okay, these are the recipes I want?
Yeah. So my very first book was actually it literally my collection of recipes that I shared with friends and family. It was the top 50. These are the ones that make my dinner table. Never really meant, it was meant for, again, kind of the inner circle. But I really love that one, even though it's not at all professionally done. It wouldn't hold a candle to most other books, but it's the real food, right? That I serve, that I share, that, recipes I've picked up along the way and tweak. So that one is just special because it's what I make every day. But then, I've done some ghostwriting, some other projects, but then the pizza book is so different, right? Because some of these pizzas I'll only make, once a year at most. There's
Yeah.
100 some recipes. Can't make them all every day, though. I tried there for a couple of years. I was making about 8 pizzas a week.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I mean, you got so I made 517 test pizzas total for this book. I counted, again, being an engineer, meticulous notes in
Wow.
each one. Yeah, over the course of 4.5 years, there was a lot. There was a lot of pizza donated to very happy neighbors and kids, honestly.
There's so much that goes into it that I think that unless you've written one, it's sort of hard to be like realize like how much preparation and recipes and just care and love and making it perfect and exactly what people will enjoy.
You absolutely nailed it, right? And then obviously, from experience, but I reached out to a lot of different restaurant owners and pizzeria, masters, and they gave me the recipe. At first, I thought, oh, that's so generous, but the recipe isn't it, right? Because it's the hands, and they may have the wood fired oven. I have an old gas range, right? So it's like you say, converting it and making sure that's accessible to everyone. That was the challenge. And as you know, I can nail it, but it's not written for me, right? It's written for everyone. So you make sure it's with everyone's skills and the tools that they have available. And that was kind of the key and the I would say struggle. It was the love of it, honestly, because I knew that pizza was good for me, but is it written right? Is the temperatures right? All those little nuances, were those nailed to be sure that it's approachable for everyone. My book is not for the absolute pizza master, though may enjoy, is for anyone who likes pizza can pick it up and make any style.
Wow, that's incredible. And then as far as like the feedback goes, do you have like people who are like, I like this recipe? Is there one that's like the popular recipe?
There are definitely some that stand out. The one that I think stands out the most, it's been kind of made most of, is, I invented this style just in my kind of, trials right in the lab. So I live in
Yeah.
Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is halfway from Detroit and Chicago. I basically mashed up the two Chicago styles in Detroit into one kind of pizza. And it's kind of thin. It's got the Frico sauce on top. And it reminds you of all of them. And I kind of dubbed it Kalamazoo style pizza. I put it in the book. Everyone loves it, right? PMQ wrote an article about it. Charlie picked it up, and just around this area, right? People just, well, what is this? I didn't mean to make it a thing, but turns out it's so embodied kind of the culture of the area I live. That's the one that kind of always raises eyebrows. What's this? We've never heard of it. Well, it's because I invented it. I made it up, but it kind of works. Actually, it works better than honestly most other styles in the book. Kind of coincidentally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really cool. And then as far as your next projects, like what are you looking at doing next?
I'm looking at sleeping next. After 6 years of this bad boy,
Wow.
it's a lot. So I've got some other projects I can't quite divulge yet, but I like regional cooking a lot. I think every region has a story, and there's so much food out there that we don't know exists that is so amazing. And I like telling that story because it's not just a recipe, it's a story, just like what you do here, right? The story behind the food, to me, makes that kind of cultural connection. That's important. So that's really my passion. But in the short term, it's, the podcast, sleep, and not making, a dozen pizzas every week, which got kind of hard after a while. Fun, but got a little taxing for a year there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're so right about the story just because, we were just in Italy and it's like every region has a story and it's the same thing in the US. Is like there's all these regions, like even just the little town where my family's pizzeria is from, there's specific things in the town and like Little Italy with the Italian restaurants that you have there that you wouldn't necessarily have somewhere else.
No. And again, you're starting to see now where it's passing through generations, right? So now you see the generational changes, which I think is fascinating, right? I mean, you're even
Yeah.
seeing how pizza in New York, right, has changed from the Neapolitan, neo-Neapolitan, man. It's starting to morph all because of just those generational hands. And that to me is more fascinating than any dough recipe can be.
Yeah, that's part of why I love pizza and pizza in the United States is because you have all these amazing artists who are just making it their own and all these pizza like collaborations and things that you wouldn't necessarily see on a pizza, but it's like I'm really here for it right now.
Right. And that's exactly it. And now you see it bouncing back from Italy, the United States, and the sharing and that's so cool. Right. And
Yeah.
it's, no longer Italian only food, is an international worldwide food. I've got some friends in Brazil and they're telling me about their pizza and what they put on, but not just the toppings, but how social it is and how it's fascinating. Right. Because, like, you would think Brazil and pizza, but it's like the number two pizza consumer in the world. It's just
Yeah.
right. So, you're absolutely right. That story and the culture of it, how just the microcosms of it. That's fun. That's a fun story that I enjoy telling, and hopefully I'll be telling again in the future.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Now, I know, for me, I have like a number one fan, which is like the person who's like loves to eat any type of pizza or food that I make, and it's my husband. Do you have someone like in your family or friends that you're like, this is my number one fan? Like I'm cooking, this person is the person.
Yeah, so it's funny. Well, I did that pizza party. My two daughters, who are now 8 and 4, I got them both custom T-shirts to say "Pizza Monster," because they are, right. I mean, they are as picky as young girls can be, but Dad's Pizza, regardless of his style, they've always loved. which is a Meyer Miracle. So, everything I make, I even dedicate the book to them for that reason, because, they are the pizza monsters in my life, and they're the ones that, ultimately ate a lot of test pizzas. Not all of America were 10 out of 10. I tell you, there were plenty of I would say subpar to my standard, but they loved them all. And that support kind of is, again, the family aspect is kind of everything. So they're my number one fans. Though it is funny, their friends now ask them when they can come over for pizza, which I think is pretty fun. So I'm
Yeah.
now famous in the the community of the 8 and 4 year olds for my pizza.
Wow.
My daughter turned 8 last week, and we had a pizza party, and all the kids made their own pizza at it, which was 16 pizzas, and not something any person should ever try. But we did, and it was amazing. And that's just, it's fun, right? Just kind of sharing that again with the community is kind of what it's all about, right?
Oh, 100%, yes. So let's get into your podcast. I want to talk about like what made you decide to do a podcast just because I like to discuss this just because one day I was like, I'm going to do a podcast.
It's funny. The podcast found me, and I met some of the greatest people ever. So, like I said, I do freelance writing for Inside Hook, which is an amazing publication. And I wrote an article about the water in New York. Is it really
Yeah.
better? Again, chemical engineer by background. So, just kind of pulling on that. And, Michael Fox, who runs the I Need Pizza Club, will do my say, hey, do you want to come on this show? We call it the Pizza Roundtable. You have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I came on, right? We talked about some articles, and they asked me back, and they asked me back, and now I'm a co-host with Will and Anna
Wow.
Cruz, who's one of the best pizza and gelato makers on the planet. And I just, the podcast found me, but again, talking about news stories, talking about the culture and the image and the people behind the pizza is what I love doing. So I am so blessed to co-host that every week with them. Again, Michael and Will and Ann are tremendous people. As you know, right? Chemistry in a podcast is something you have or you don't. We have it. Partly
Yeah.
because they're so knowledgeable. I mean, I am the smallest fish in the pond compared to them. But yeah, I love it. And again, went from just being on once to now being the guy who kicks it off every week.
That's incredible. And do you have a favorite, like, I don't know, I don't really like to ask if you have a favorite episode. Do you have a favorite, like, topic or area where you're like, okay, this is amazing?
Yeah, there are a couple things I like doing too. So my co-host Will has a version of the California style pizza. Doesn't think it exists. So I find the articles every week. I'll pick one again, just needle him. And we always just find the best stories out of Florida, right? Either they're eating snake or they're going 180 miles per hour to try and make it before. There's always a good Florida gem that offers a little levity into the show. So my favorite ones, we're actually
Yeah.
doing a recap tomorrow, and I was like, these are all Florida based. Like I need to mix this up a little bit. And so those are the most fun, right? And that, and just highlighting champions, people who have done great in the community or won an award. Those are always fun, especially if they're friends, or for like the John Ria Foundation or something, where you get to highlight a great cause. So those are my favorite articles.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. I love talking to people, at least that are on the podcast, about like the community work that they do. And of course, I'm always up for a conversation about what they like to eat. I'm like, we love to eat. I like to talk about food. I'm like every day, like, what are we having to eat?
Yeah,
That's what drives me most of the time.
same. Yeah, same. Breakfast gets me out of bed most days. That and a hungry 4 year old, but again for breakfast. So I guess it still gets me out of bed. Just might not be mine.
Absolutely. And what do you feel like pizza's meant for your family?
A lot, more than I think I ever would have thought. When I started this journey, like I say, the pizza party at my daughter's birthday, it kind of just hit me as, oh, this means something to her too, right? And
Yeah,
my bookmark to the book, my working copy is a bookmark she made, and it's a like best pizza ever mel, which she made when she was 4. So it kind of means everything, 'cause it's kind of, that's the thing we do at Sundays generally, and that's what we all sit around. And again, as good Italians, right? That family meal is very powerful, and that's become a
yeah,
family meal that now, when we have friends and family over, we know how to do this, right? It's a very comfortable. It's not the fray of hosting. It's a pizza party, and it's amazing. So I think that's what it's facilitated a lot of those memories and kind of communal, hangs, which it's pretty cool, right? Especially you see, the girls grow up, and as we kind of meet more people in the community, pizza's kind of been a really good avenue to not only meet people here, but then obviously everyone I've met through the book, the hundreds of people I couldn't even begin to start.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I mean, we're big on family meals, like, we still have them all the time. I just spent 35 days with my parents, and I was telling my mom she turned 70, and I said, "We had 70 meals. We had 35 lunches, we had 35 dinners all together as a family. We didn't like to eat without each other. I'm getting ready to go home to have our traditional 7 fish Italian Christmas Eve dinner, and it's like that those things are so memorable, like, every time we go home too, it's like we go to the pizza place and we have pizza all together, and there's 20 or 30 of us eating together.
Yeah, right. And that's exactly it. It's 20 or 30 eating together, right? And there's something about that, and pizza just lends itself so perfectly. So, yeah, I mean, you understand, right? You said the feast of the seven fishes. I'm gonna do my same Christmas Eve, only with seven pizzas. I'm gonna do my play on that when we
Are
have
you
all.
really?
So I'm gonna have all everyone over. I'm gonna make seven different pizzas.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, for Christmas Eve. So if no one knows that yet, it's going to be a surprise. But yeah, I've got them all planned, different styles, different toppings. I'm gonna just lean into that because again, kiddos don't really love the too many of the fishes, but they'll always go for the pizza.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I don't know if you get this, but when people find out that I have a pizza podcast and that I'm into pizza, it's like an automatic, like, almost like a likability. Do you have that too, where you've just like met people and they're just sort of excited about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Because everyone wants to tell me one their favorite pizza.
Yeah.
Two, they asked me what my favorite pizza to make, which I just said. And three, I inevitably get the picture of the pizza they made. And I love that. That's my favorite part. I don't care
Yeah.
if the pizza looks like it's an amoeba. I don't care if it's perfect. I love it, right? Because they're making pizza and they're excited to share their creation. That again, that's the best part. But it's always those three things. Where's your favorite place? Here's my favorite place. What's your favorite to make? And then the picture of the pizza, which again is all I could every time. Well, I mean, same for you, right? You probably get the same thing is what's your favorite and where's your
Yeah.
favorite spot around you? Yeah.
Yeah, and then, people send me, like, Instagram messages of, like, "Interview this person," or, like, "This pizza," or, like, "Try this," and I like that. I'm like, I want all the DMs of that kinda stuff.
Yes. Two, three a day, right? Of just, hey, did you check this? There's mozzarella sticks on a pizza. Have you ever just like, yes, I have. And you're right. That's awesome. Yeah. I like being the pizza dude kind of in the friend group. That's always a fun thing that I never knew I wanted till I started this journey.
Yeah, for sure. Now, speaking of, do you have places where you're like, these are my top favorite pizza places in the whole world?
Well, I mentioned like 30 in the book, so I'm not going to name tops, but
Okay.
there's one spot that's special to me. It's Full and Santos in South Loop in Chicago. I had my rehearsal dinner there. I lived above it.
Wow.
I took my wife there the day I asked her to marry me. Right, I mean that is my spot. That is my comfort place. The pizza on the front is the order that her and I used to get every time. So I'm not naming favorites, but that's a real special place in just my life long before this journey. And again, of course, it's a tavern style, and it probably plays into it. Again, I've never met a pizza place I didn't love, but that one I think stands out again for all the personal.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with you on that, and that's, like, my favorite's always gonna be my family's because it's where I grew up, where with all my memories with my grandparents and with my dad doing the marketing and filming, and it's just like I walk in there and all my grandparents' old stuff is still there, and it's just, like, very I get to see the pictures, and it's a home to me.
Right. And it's home. And again, something about it just it's home, it's your place, it's familiar, and you might have had the pizza a thousand times. It doesn't matter, right? Because it's more about the pizza, it's about the community and everything. And that's kind of how I feel there. So it's kind of my spot. And I always love taking directing people there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where do you see the future of pizza going?
Boy, it something we kind of talk about a lot because you see all these articles about chains closing, consolidating, and the fast food pizzas are both growing and shrinking, and the landscape is so different. But I do think that at-home pizza making is here to stay,
Yeah.
because it is fun, and all the different tools make it much more accessible than it was even 10 years ago. But so, I think at home pizza making will continue to grow. I also think that the regional styles are going to explode. Detroit was kind of a trendsetter, right? But you look at all the regional styles, how they're varying and how there's styles within the styles. Now, I think that's fun. I think people are kind of attuned to that. So I think that the regionalities will continue to grow and morph. There might be a follow-up book, just how every regional style has changed in 10 years, because it has, even since I started this journey a couple of years ago, how there's so many different tavern styles now, and there's Milwaukee, and there's so many subsets. So I think it'll just continue to grow and morph, which again, I'm kind of here for the journey because that's kind of the fun of pizza.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do people find you? How do they find your books?
Perfect. So Jim Mumford, PizzaPedia is what you will look for. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you get your books. I am at Jim Cook's Food Good, wherever you get your social media. And of course, the I Need Pizza Club is on Instagram, podcast, wherever you get your items. Please support any and all if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, guys, absolutely go and follow him, get his books, make the pizzas, take pictures, take videos, send them to him, and I'll send them to me. I want to see them too. Jim, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really absolutely love everything you're doing. I can't wait to see the next phase of like the different areas in the cookbooks. And I'm a fan. So thank you.
No, thank you. Likewise, I'm a huge fan. Love the podcast. Love how you let people tell their stories. So thank you for having me on, and looking forward to all the next episodes.